The incentives are such a smart way to look at and evaluate partners, right? And I think that, I mentioned like we all at least give lip service to it. I hope some of us are genuine to it, that like the longevity of this industry, which is a lot of times in question, definitely certain markets, right? And then you zoom in, definitely certain customers, right? We have customers that we're fighting for. I have a dispensary down the street from me here that like I'm fighting for, and I know they're on the edge and I love them, and they're like family owned and they've been in this neighborhood for 10 plus years, and they're just barely making it, right? Like I'm walking in there trying to give them ideas and trying to help out and like post Google reviews and all these kind of things. So like even down to those single stores, but all the way up to the industry, you think about like I'll just speak to some of our incentives, right? Some of our key KPIs are really all around like reducing aged inventory costs, like shorter term things, like KPIs we put in front of our customers. Like we got to get your aged inventory costs down so we can give you cash back so you can deploy it to grow your business. Bigger picture, just for health of our business and where we fit into it. It's like the basically how long is a customer going to be on our platform? Which also means they have to be alive. They have to maintain their license and be there, right? Like, oh, if we're going to set this all up, like I need you to be a customer for 3 years, right? So I have to do everything and make all the right moves so that you are still a customer, you're still in business, and you can still work with us, and you still want to work with us, like that lifetime value of a customer, and our churn rates and all those kind of things on these products. Which is part of the reason we started doing these free trials, which we haven't seen a lot of in cannabis tech, about like,
Yeah.
hey, for right now we'll waive onboarding fees and let you on and use your data because we want you're going to be you're if you already know everything about it, if you can use it and place orders with it and look at it, you know exactly what it is versus, oh, I felt like you pulled one over on me and this isn't what I thought it was. Like come in and use it kind of stuff, right? But those
I love the
incentives
North Star
all,
metric as a business,
yeah.
right? Maybe it's something if you're a brand, a retailer, whatever, looking at tech, right? You could ask people like, not only what's on your roadmap, what are your, what's your ethos, your culture, your vision for the business, right? But also like, what's the metric that you're really defining your success as a company, right? As a platform.
Yep.
And that's a really unique question. I've never been asked it. And I'm just thinking our North Star metric when we started this year was buyer created orders, which are up 6% for already this year, which
Hmm.
when you're doing almost 15,000 orders. That's a good percent increase a month. And what we really felt was buyer created orders to us means that sellers are really adopting the tools and they're really getting all the gains from the marketing and the CRM and the store
Hmm.
and all that, right? And then what we know is if buyers are creating orders, they're in the app, they're living in it, they're discovering more brands. So new brands are getting more value from the network. And then ultimately, too, the existing brands are getting more efficiency because buyers are creating the orders. And instead of their team receiving 90% of orders and
Hmm.
manually putting them in each night, 55% of all orders in Apex are placed by buyers, right? That's the average across all markets. Some markets are over 80%. What that means is that sales reps are out there growing revenue, getting, making sure consumers know who their products are, right? And looking how to like growing revenue through new stores or getting more SKUs on shelf space and understanding, hopefully spending the time to understand the retailer to make sure the incentives are aligned. You're selling really what's going to be great for them to have holding power in the store, right? And I think those
Yeah.
are very critical. I think there was a question about Dama that I saw. I just saw it pop up. I think that at the end of the day, like I've raised venture capital. Happy Cabbage has raised venture capital. LeafLink raised a lot of venture capital, right? There's a lot of companies in the tech space that we were reliant on investors to start our businesses, right? Some
Hmm.
self-funded, but majority weren't. And so I think at the end of the day, when you're telling investors a certain thing and you're painting a story to raise capital, right? And I'm assuming monetization of GMV is one of those, right? All of us on the tech space, either as point of sale or wholesale, pitched monetization of GMV as the big North Star of what's going to make this company worth hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Apex scrapped that 3.5 years ago. We said, we're not going to monetize on GMV. I don't see it. The clients are going to ask for it. We're going to be profitable as a SaaS company. We're going to focus on the client's real problems, not the solution or what we've
Hmm.
somehow pitched to
Yep.
ourselves and convince ourselves we can do this, right? We don't have conviction behind that today as an operator. I think in the future, maybe. But our big thing is like, I think at the end of the day, what you've presented to investors as a CEO or as founders, you're going to have to live up to those things or you will not be here, right? They will
Right.
remove you. They will take over. They will do
Yep.
everything. So really it's job protection in a sense and also trying to fulfill what you have promised or led investors to believe, whether that's a reality or something that is not
Yeah.
reality, right? And I think that's a core thing, is really understanding that some decisions potentially being made aren't driven by the team. They're driven by the board and by the investors,
Yeah,
aren't close to the plant and aren't close or care as much about the individual operator. They care about the return on their investment. And that's a very
yep,
different philosophy as you think about, is my provider focused on that maximizing, and I should always think about, as an operator, like for me, I want to maximize shareholder return, don't me get, but I'm not going to do it I'm not going to sacrifice who we are, what we are, what our
yeah,
promise was to clients to get there, right? There's an ethical
yeah.
line I draw, essentially.
I think this is a little bit like peer behind the curtain in the venture backed world. You know, a lot of the retailers and grows and brands are venture backed as well, which I do think is also, you know, when you talk about that, like how is that impacting? How did what we raised money for and say we're going to do without necessarily reevaluating every day and looking like we're pivoting too much? You know, a lot of the oversupply comes down to that. We definitely saw that in Canada, right? Like they were like, well, we're going to be producing this much and have this much canopy. You know, this is how many square feet we're going to have here and how many stores we're going to have. And even as market conditions change, it's like that you did that so that you could go to the board meeting and say that you did that. We said last quarter we're going to do that. We just opened this new cultivation. We just did this. All of that was part of kind of satisfying, you know, those things that we said. I do think it is very like open knowledge, or at least you know, very easy to deduce. And if somebody wants to counter this because we don't have inside information around it, like let's host another one of these and talk about it. But you talk about like, look at what point of sales are reporting, right? Look at what wholesale marketplaces are reporting. Look at the numbers that they report. How many transactions? The dollar transaction amount through has almost always been a KPI that's been publicly reported. Now that's interesting because it ties to tax revenue for local markets. It ties to just like how big is the industry growing. It's an important number, right? But I think a lot of those companies, we see this in the point of sale side as well, we're kind of pitching like the hockey stick they were going to get that was going to return shareholder value was a take rate on transactions,
Yeah.
right? And we might not have thought of that in the wholesale side. We definitely thought about it at the register, right? And some of the point of sales have been backed by companies that have done this in other retail markets where it's the credit card fees, right? It's the percentage of every transaction. Because I'm going to like that's retail point of sale 101, right? The retail point of sale outside of cannabis makes all of their money pretty much on they give away hardware, give away monthly fees, they make it all on credit card transactions. They get a percentage of every order in there. And I think that's where a lot of the point of sales, rightfully so, kind of pitched. But thank you, federal regulations, you know, not making that super, super compliant. Then I think that you've got to look at like, are they trying to get it now? They've got to do that to hit the next profitability metric. I do love, and I'll just say one more thing on the North Star. I do love that our North Star metrics are very aligned. We have a number we report every Monday to our whole company that we talk about, which is our number of happily buying customers. And we've defined this metric that's happily buying. It's very similar to yours.
Yeah.
It's actions that they take in the app that were like ordering activities. Like they went through and they were able to make a decision on ordering using our data, which is AI based, which we think is hyper accurate. So we take that as like they made a better order. Like congratulations, here's the confetti and the
Yeah.
unicorns. You made a good ordering decision. But like they have to make a certain number, and that's how many orgs, and like we're hitting records every week with that number. But that's our North Star right now. It's just like, are you getting the value out of the platform? Did you make a better decision this week than you did last week when you didn't have the platform?